Hello there. Today I'm going into a universe I haven't ventured much into, but I am a huge fan of and loved it since I was a kid. Used to watch this when I used to come home from school. My dad used to watch it with me. I think he's the one that introduced me to it actually. And that would be Farscape. This will be the first of a short series. This isn't going to be short. I'm sprinkling it in. I do like to delve into other science fiction universes other than Star Trek, so I hope you're willing to come with me for a little adventure into another universe, where I cover a few of the ships that I like from the Farscape universe. And we're starting today, as if you didn't know from clicking on the thumbnail, the Scarran Dreadnought. For a little context, the Scarrans were a shark-like in appearance, large humanoid species, far larger and stronger than a human, or a Sebacean, physically intimidating with a short temper, not known for their intellectual prowess or diplomatic skills, but they were known to be very combat effective and bloody hard to kill, and famous for their thermal heat gland that allowed them to sort of singe you with a touch. And they ate dainty flowers. The Dreadnought was representative of many of the Scarran's mentality. Big, brutish, powerful, pretty much an A to B ship, but actually in one-on-one combat was not considered equal to the Sebacean command carrier that, although much smaller at half the size, was a far more intelligently built vessel, whereas this ship was built like a gigantic heavyweight, just built to throw weapons and energy at the enemy and hope that the enemy couldn't survive it for very long. This enormous vessel was close to 3,500 meters in length at an estimated 3,400 meters, with a width of 1,000 meters and a height of 1,000 meters. It was armed with 3 pulse cannons at the front, 5 turreted medium pulse cannons, 1 forward, 2 aft, 1 starboard, 1 port, with 50 turreted smaller pulse cannons, and was also equipped with an unknown number of striker fighters. It carried a crew of at least 20,000 personnel and could carry several hundred more passengers and additional personnel. As I said, despite the immense firepower that this ship could bring to bear, which was formidable, it was no match, generally one-on-one, with the Sebacean command carrier, but as a result, these vessels would travel in groups as a result. Even though they were not generally a match for the Sebacean command carrier, they were far superior to the kinds of ships being basically used by everybody else in the area. And they were no joke. They were no pushover of a vessel. They were very sturdy and very, very strong and capable of weathering a lot of damage, just like the Scarrans themselves. These vessels were encountered up to the year 1999 by John Crichton and the sort of renegade crew of the Leviathan Moya. The Scarrans used these as their primary capital ship in their navy around this time period, and they had an unknown but extensive number of these ships that they were capable of fielding at this time. Although a very, very basic ship, its basic nature meant that it was actually relatively easy to build, easy to maintain, and the Scarrans could build and field a lot of them, basically because of the simplicity of the design. They were not an overly complicated or overly engineered ship like a Sebacean ship. But what it did lack for that sophistication, it only made up for in brute strength and not in any kind of versatility. And you really relied on numbers with this ship. But it is a glorious design, with a very unorthodox sort of hull layout and very different and very alien to the more traditional starships being fielded by the Sebaceans and by humans and other races in that universe. If you can call those starships fielded by humanity in the Farscape universe starships, I mean, you were talking NASA shuttles, really. Humans aren't a very advanced race in Farscape if you've never watched it. So, the Scarran Dreadnought really isn't much else to say about it. It had no unique or special weaponry or special capabilities other than it grew a lot of flowers on board and was filled with 20,000 angry shark people. To be clear, the Scarrans are not actually sharks. They just kind of look like a shark. I don't know if anyone else sees that when they look at them. I do. But what do you guys think? Is this a ship that you love? Did you watch Farscape? Because I feel like I'm one of the sort of outliers of people that knows this series, and it never really gets as much love or as much talk and conversation as it used to get. The vessel and the Scarrans as a whole were intimidating. As I said, this ship may not have been a match one-on-one for the command carrier, but they had a lot more of them, and they were more powerful than what other people had. So from the Scarran's point of view, this ship did what it needed to do. It was very powerful, very strong, very sturdy, and it with its large sort of dark hull, its sort of menacing silhouette and powerful presence in the field. This ship was enough in intimidation alone usually to knock an enemy on its arse without ever having to fire a shot, although this would be Scarrans being Scarrans, they'd probably still shoot you while you were on your arse, because Scarrans, if you've watched it, you know what they're like. They're basically they're Klingons on drugs. That's what they are. They're not the nicest people, and they're extremely violent and not to be trusted, generally speaking. But what do you think of this design? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Does it fit in well? I actually think this ship is very good for the setting. It's another universe, a bit like, sort of like, I'm about to compare this to Warhammer, so stay with me. It's a bit like Warhammer. No one in Farscape is entirely the good guy. Scarrans are not entirely the bad guys, but they're not good either. No one is wholly good or wholly bad in this universe. Everyone has shades of grey, and it's a very, very good show at portraying that. And the fact that the Scarrans are real world, kind of comparable to, say, the Soviet Union, with a brutalistic, very, very simple but powerful sort of grizzly bear like attack stance in the way that they portray their military and organize and basically deploy themselves, it was very relatable. And also it was relatable that some Scarrans were not bad people. Most Scarrans were violent and vicious, but didn't necessarily make them bad, and this ship, again, was representative. It was symbolic of that cultural mindset. It was big, it was loud, it was brutish, it was scary. Not necessarily as powerful on its own as it looked, but definitely scary, definitely powerful, and was definitely going to kick your ass unless you were a Sebastian command carrier, which, quite frankly, with the exception only of a Nabari ship, which we know could beat one-on-one, there was not much else that could beat a command carrier in a single engagement. They were considered one of the most powerful vessels in the known galaxy. So again, what do you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? If you've never seen it, I recommend you go and watch it. It's a very good show. It's very engaging. It's absolutely batshit crazy. It's bonkers, but it's bonkers in a good way. And as I said, a lot of the races and people are very relatable because none of them are good and none of them are bad. Not truly. None of them. I mean, no one. Not even the main protagonists. So give it a look if you've never seen it. And we're now at the end of this episode. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now, and in the description box below there are links to my other social media accounts.